Hi, this is Jan of the Jan Files. Thank you for following me. Thank you for watching this video. I hope that you will subscribe if you haven't, and if you have, also subscribe to my Substack channel because I don't know what's going on with these algorithms. Nobody does. Clearly, TikTok is banning people, banning posts on Epstein. So I would appreciate your support. And this is really important material. I think this is probably the most important video I've made. And so I hope you will pay attention, but I also hope that I can disseminate this information in a way that you can grasp, it's a little difficult because it's so dense and it's such a story. But here we go. So 2 days ago, I told you that I was going to look at Epstein and also Opus Dei. Opus Dei is OPUSDEI. It is a Catholic organization that was formed in 1920s, 30s by a guy who is now a saint who wanted lay people to be more devout in their behavior. In other words, he wanted lay people to be celibate. He wanted them to give all their money, it all, whatever. So, but no connection to Epstein. But what it did was I started going down that rabbit hole of these different kinds of groups, societies, however you want to call them, and focus on who are they, who's participating in them, and did Epstein have any connection? Because we all know that he was familiar with the wealthy, right? And the famous, and then governments, et cetera, et cetera. We don't really know how that all happened, right? We have ideas, we speculate, but we don't really have, how did he get to all these people? How did he know these people? And obviously there was a variety of ways, but I'm going to share some really important information with you. Now, I went through different groups, and I'm going to start with one which was called the Council on Foreign Relations. It was started in 1921 after World War I. Its purpose was to look at war and peace and its impact on business. Now, this group still exists. It's very important. They have a journal, I guess, that goes out, Foreign Affairs, that is still, highly regarded, et cetera, et cetera. Now, this group is at the level that 7 U.S. presidents have been a part of it, 37 secretaries of state, and that list goes on. Now, Epstein also was a member. He became a member in 1995. How? I don't know. Why? I don't know. But he was. He was a member and donated $350,000. Now, maybe that's all it took. Maybe he donated and they let him in. I find that a little hard to believe, only because there are a lot of people who could donate $350,000, and that, I think, was over time, because they stopped listing him in 2009, a full year after his sentence for prostitution with a minor. But he was part of this group with all these really powerful people. And one of the guys who was part of that was CIA Director William Burns. Some of you may be old enough to remember that name. In 2014, he met. Now, 2014 is a lot later than 2008. Obviously, it's years after his conviction, Epstein's conviction. But the CIA, the former CIA director, William Burns, met with Epstein more than once in New York, in his house. Okay? I'm just dropping that because I'm going to drop things like that because you can speculate. I can speculate. At this point, I'm just going to give you the information, and we can speculate together. So this group is really prominent, like Hillary Clinton, Condoleezza Rice, Madeleine Albright, in terms of the women that were finally allowed in the 50s. This is the lever. How the fuck did Epstein get there in 1995? Don't know. Um, but what you should know is that this wasn't the only group that he was a part of. He was also part of another group. And let me give you a little bit of history to this group. That group was called the, hold on one second, I gotta check the Trilateral Commission. Now, that group was created by David Rockefeller. He created it because of another group. And this is why I say this is going to be a little bit a little bit tangled. There was a group called the Bilderberg Group, which was created in 1954. Based on, there was a hotel of that name in the Netherlands, and that's where the first group took place. There was about 120 to 150 leaders. This is worldwide now. Okay, the Bilderberg was a worldwide group, and they still meet, they still exist. And what they do every year is they meet, they hold meetings, 3 meetings. There are no minutes, no recordings, and no press. It's all in secrecy. All in secrecy. David Rockefeller was a part of this group, and he wanted them to expand it to, hold on one second. He wanted to expand it to include Japan. They refused. So David Rockefeller decided to create another group, the Trilateral Commission. And so just take a deep breath. So here we have the Council on Foreign Relations, the Bilderberg Group. Epstein was not a part of that, but he became a part of the Trilateral Commission. And I'm going to tell you about a little bit of that history. So that was created, as I said, by David Rockefeller. And it was created because he wanted to expand the base of what the group was looking at. He wanted to include Japan, Asia, etc. And they didn't. So David Rockefeller, having all the resources in the world, did that himself. Well, it turns out that Jeffrey Epstein donated $350,000 to Rockefeller University, and he was put on the board of Rockefeller University. He then became a member of the Trilateral Commission. Now, the Trilateral Commission has very strict rules. There are only 87 seats that are open to North Americans. 87. You don't get to add 88. In order to become a part of the group, one of those seats has to go, somebody has to die, leave, whatever. Well, for some reason, David Rockefeller thought that Epstein was worthy of being a part of this group. You know who his co-sponsor was? So we had David Rockefeller and Henry Kissinger supported him to become part of this group, which he was a part of. Now, let's talk about the little philosophy of this group. They commissioned a report in 1975, and this comes from it. The Crisis of Democracy was the name. There is an excess of democracy, too much public participation in political life, and it called for more moderation in democracy and a return to public passivity. Now think about that. Basically, they were deciding that there's two, and this is a decision, by the way, folks, and these are really powerful people. And so I'm going to give you a list of who was in there too. But they decided that we had too much democracy. Now, they've subsequently changed their tune according to their website, but they to actually say something like that and to say they want to make the public more passive because we're getting in their way, right? Our wants and needs are not the same as what's good for business. So let's be really fucking clear about this. All of these groups had an inclination to focus on what was good for powerful, wealthy people. Now, Obviously, there are people who believe differently, and especially in the Council of Foreign Relations, they often will have somebody there just because they want to show that they are, not just right wing, but left wing participants, etc. But the whole thing is these groups are meeting with this idea that they, because they're powerful and they're wealthy, get to decide what the world should look like for us. And this is not a joke. This is absolutely real. And you can go and you can look at the history. It is all there. So let me give you some of the names that were part of, I just had it here, the Trilateral Commission, the one that Epstein was, able to get a seat on. And Epstein claimed that he was 30 or 32 at the time. Now, I don't know. That doesn't fit in with a lot of other things. There's another thing that said it was 1998, which would make more sense because he was in 32s, would have put it in the 80s. But given that, let me give you some of the names of the people, first of all, that were in it. And it was started by David Rockefeller. And I can't say his first name, so I'm not going to try. Mika Staddy, Brzezinski, David Rockefeller, and Brzezinski. Henry Kissinger, Paul Volcker, and some of the U.S. presidents and vice presidents, Jimmy Carter, Bill Clinton, George Bush, Dick Cheney, Walter Mondale. And secretaries of state, Alexander Haig, Caspar Weinberger, George Shultz, McNamara, oh my. And so that level. And of course, finance and banking. You know who's in this group? Jamie Dimon. Now, Jamie Dimon, as we all know, is the head of JP Chase Morgan. David Rockefeller was the chairman of JP. Well, it wasn't there. It was Chase Bank. It was just Chase Bank. And so it's not only Jamie Dimon, it's Larry Fink, which is BlackRock, E. Gerald Corrigan, Goldman Sachs managing director, David Rubenstein, Carlyle Group, and Frank Carlucci, Carlyle Group. So this is, folks, it's right there in front of us. It is absolutely right there in front of us. And Epstein was in that group. And it makes no fucking sense. How does he get into a group with this level of power and influence? And also, these people had a resume, right? What the fuck was Epstein's resume? And why did David Rockefeller ask him? This is David Rockefeller Sr., who died in 2017 at the 101, not David Rockefeller Jr. And so, anyway, Epstein was there. He was at the table. So we want to know how he met these people? This is how he met these people. He went into their world, okay? And then he drew some of them into his. And this was all political. It was global. It was really powerful, primarily men. Some of these groups opened up to women, like the Council on Foreign Relations in the 50s. Thank you. Right? But this is, for the most part, this is really about powerful white men sitting down and saying, okay, we know what's best, and we're going to make sure that we coordinate to make sure this happens. Now, obviously, the dudes who got together after World War I were pretty unsuccessful since we had World War II. But this is the level of thinking. This is the level of, we are so far above the rest of you, we don't even really want to hear from you. We want you to be passive. We're going to make the decisions on how we move forward as a society in the US and in other places. And so I can't tell you how important I think this information is, right? And I'm not, again, saying I am the only one talking. I don't know who else is talking about this, but in general terms, I do. I think everybody is. But in more specific ways, this is how he got in the door. Now, whether how he got in first, it could have been the money. It could have been that he was able to drop this money. So, I'm sure that this was just one of the ways that he got in. But these are powerful groups. These are powerful people. So this is really important. How I got to Les Wexner, I don't know. And I also want to share with you the power of these kinds of groups by going and looking at the Federalist Society, which is Leonard Leo. Leonard Leo, as you probably know, is named for mostly because of his gifts to Clarence Thomas, a really wealthy guy, Catholic guy. And what he did, he started the Federalist Society in 1982. And when they started that, his goal, it was right wing, always, never been anything else. And what he did, he literally identified law school students who were promising, and he supported them. Then he supported them by getting them into clerkships with judges. And then he supported them by getting them on the federal bench. And then he supported them by putting how do you want to look at that? 6 of them on the Supreme Court. 6 of the current Supreme Court justices came out of the Federalist Society. That's the kind of power these groups can have. And you can see how it has damaged our country. And so, folks, I think share this information. Maybe do some digging too, because this is a lot. I mean, like, I've been doing this for a couple of days now. I was going to publish last night, but I said, no, I'm not done. I want to do more. And I just want to review some of this to make sure I didn't forget anything. Oh, here's one thing. See, I knew I forgot something. Epstein told Steve Bannon in an interview 2018, 2019, before he was obviously arrested, that David Rockefeller said the following. Elected politicians are temporary. Businessmen provide the continuity and stability that real governance requires. Let me repeat that. Elected politicians are temporary, and he believed that businessmen provide the continuity and stability that real governance requires. Epstein told that to Steve Bannon. Think about that statement. So the idea that the elite businessmen, whether it's the tech goons or banking or financial, are controlling all of this, absolutely right. And I apologize for the background noise. Something's going off on its own time. But I don't know, folks. I find this really incredibly, I absolutely believe it. I feel like absolutely believable. But I think that this is warranting. I think, please, I ask you to share this and talk about it. Talk about it. Don't sometimes just posting things, but put your opinion down. Share it with me. This is how things grow. If you don't even want, well, it doesn't matter, because if you're not watching my video, you're not going to hear any of this anyway. So I encourage you to look into this more. I'm going to keep my eyes open. I mean, I think I did a pretty deep dive. I just tried to bring out the major points of this. But there's also one thing I do want to share, which is completely not a part of this. Just know that the state of Wisconsin, the Republicans have put forth a sorry. The Republicans in Wisconsin voted down a law that would sanctify the right to contraception. Every single Republican voted against it. Now think about that. They're willing to allow the government to come after women's contraceptives. Probably not men's, but birth control pills, IUDs, diaphragms, all of those things. And we need to pay attention to that too. What a shit show. So anyway, that's my presentation today. I do hope, and like I said, if I find more and whatever, but I think this is a good starting point for this, and I hope that you will share. Thank you. Take care.